Hey folks, Kilt-Man here. Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? Hope we're all doing very, very well. Kids, they're monsters, aren't they? They're monsters! But they still deserve a bit of love and respect. Abigail is one such child monster, although she may be several centuries old. But anyway, she's a little kid, played by the 12-year-old Alicia Weir from Ireland, and wow, she's really good. She is really, really good. Abigail is doing great at the box office right now. It came out a good few days ago. I took a while to see it, to be honest, but I was looking forward to it. I knew all about it going in, and I had a blast with it. Genuinely enjoyed pretty much every minute. Although I will say, you could trim a good 10 minutes out of this movie, and it'd be all the better for it. But we're going to go a little bit in depth on this. So yes, spoilers ahead, plenty of them. It was known as Dracula's daughter during the making of it, which was one of those Hollywood production code names for it. Dumbass move, and they kind of realised, oh, if it's Dracula's daughter, oh, we're kind of giving the game away. Yeah, somewhat. And then realising that all the advertising and marketing campaign and the trailer gave pretty much everything away. Really badly, brazenly, stupidly. But hey, look, so we know Abigail is a vampire and very possibly Dracula's own daughter. Back in 1936, there was a great Universal horror movie which was a direct spin-off from the 1931 Bela Lugosi Dracula, with Gloria Holden playing Dracula's daughter, with Irving Pitchell as her muse. And it's a great movie with a nice lesbian sort of undertone to it as well. Yeah, very risque back in the 30s. And this film has absolutely no connection to that, other than the fact it had a working title of Dracula's daughter. There's no connection whatsoever. Believe you me, I looked for some. They're not there, folks. They're not there. There's lots of Dracula references, but it's not quite the same thing. Anyway, so what's it all about then? Abigail is the daughter of someone very rich. She gets abducted by a team of 6 that's been put together in a ramshackle sort of way, seemingly, not quite, aye. They kidnap her from her own luxurious mansion house and take her to some other, even more luxurious yet even more gothic mansion house. And they've got to keep her for 24 hours, and they're going to hold her to ransom. They're under the command of a guy called Lambert who put the team together, and they want, I don't know, I can't do the maths, but they're going to make 7 million apiece, so it's 6 times 7 million, something like that anyway. But they've got to keep her for 24 hours. Easy job, easy money. You got to try and survive that night. For the girl they've abducted, 12-year-old Abigail, played by Irish-born Alicia Weir, who is magnificent in this role. Magnificent. She ain't just any old kid of some rich father. No, she's a vampire, and she may well be several centuries old as well. And she's really powerful and really good. Look, I said spoilers, but the trailer tells you all this right from the word go. You know she's vampire. She's Nosferatu. And believe you me, vampires are all the rage at the moment. I mean, last year we had Renfield and Last Voyage of the Demeter. Lousy, disappointing, the pair of them, I thought. Salem's Lot, another remake of Salem's Lot, long delayed, been shunted out of cinemas quite unceremoniously and dumped onto, I think, HBO Max after a good 12 months in limbo. So it's going to come out at some point. You've got Guy Pearce in a film called Sunrise, a vampire movie coming out fairly soon. You've got Robert Eggers' take on Nosferatu due at the end of this year, or rather the beginning of next year. I think it's January the 1st it comes out, which I'm way looking forward to. And you've got Luc Besson doing Dracula, A Love Tale, which I've talked about. A Love Tale. Dracula, as Luc Besson, that silly little Frenchman, said, well, in the novel, Bram Stoker's Bram Stoker's novel, Dracula. It's the love story between the Count and his princess, which is what sticks with you. And I want to tell that story. There is no fucking love story in Dracula, unless you count Jonathan Harker and Mina Harker. Or Dracula and his brides, maybe. The jury's out on that one. There's no fucking love story in Dracula. So Luc Besson, fuck off with all this. We've got that coming as well. Oh dear. So vampires are all the rage. You've also had spiders. You've got Infested, the French spider movie. You've got Sting, which I reviewed, which I loved. You've got sharks, another French movie, Under Paris. You've got a shark at the triathlon, which is happening this year. But a great big monster shark is in the River Seine. Are you insane? And chomping down on all the contestants. Anyway, and you've got werewolves are back as well. You've got Larry Fessenden has just done a Blackout, a werewolf movie, has just come out. Although, unless you're in America, it's going to be hard to try and track that movie down. I'm not sure if it's even going to get shown in the UK at all. But I like Larry Fessenden's stuff, and a very maverick filmmaker and actor. And I like his quirky, eccentric characters. I love that sort of thing. And it's a werewolf movie. And you've got Lee Wannell is doing, who did The Invisible Man, is doing a modern day take on The Wolfman, due in October. So it's a big renaissance for horror movies. Although to be fair, they've never really gone away. Every single week there's horror movies leaking out into cinemas, drive-ins, or onto, video on demand, streaming, and obviously some straight to DVD stuff. But it's never gone away. But there's a lot bigger movies now. Nuns are back in business as well. Nuns, you've had Immaculate and The First Omen. I covered that. So everything is getting its day now. Horror is back in a big way. But we're with vampires. And as a vampire movie, Abigail is right up there as a really enjoyable sort of retake, retool, refanging of the vampire mythos. So let's go in a bit more detail, right? So 6 people have been assembled. Think The Usual Suspects, think Reservoir Dogs. They don't know each other, they don't trust each other. And they get this, the abduction works perfectly. They drug the girl, get her out the house, in a van. They've got an expert driver who's also a complete and utter, very, very furiously unwired and coke-addled nut job, played by the late Angus Cloud, who died just after making this movie of, well, an accidental multiple drug overdose. Can you have an accidental multiple drug overdose? Well, the character he plays in this, who's the driver, is off the rails anyway, and he is completely, you can imagine, he has coked up, shot up, done everything imaginable. You have the comms expert, the techno babe, played by Catherine Newton, who's great, ditzy but great. You have an ex-Marine sniper, played by, oh God, what's his name? Will Catlett. You have Kevin Durand, who plays a Montreal enforcer. Kevin Durand, he's the muscle in this. They make a big play on all that, but he's the muscle in many movies. He's in Robin Hood with Russell Crowe. He plays Little John. He's in Wolverine Origins. Yeah, he plays Blob. You call me Blob? No, I said Bub. Actually, I like this guy. I think he's great. And he plays a comedic role here. They all do to a degree. And you have the 2 main ones. Dan Stevens, the guest, Downton Abbey. He's in a forthcoming exorcism movie. That's another thing. They've got tons of exorcist and possession movies coming out. There's loads of them. Russell Crowe, who did The Pope's Exorcist, is in another movie about an exorcism, not connected. That's coming out soon. And Dan Stevens, who is great, by the way. I do love Dan Stevens. He was once touted as being the next Snake Plissken. That was a good 6-7 years ago. That ain't happening. But I do like him as an actor, and he's managed to distance himself from Downton Abbey quite considerably. The Guest was amazing, and he's great in this as a badass, a badass idiot buffoon. But you don't like the guy, put it that way. And our main character, our heroine, other than obviously the anti-heroine, which is Abigail, is Melissa Barrera. Is it Barrera? From a couple of Scream movies, and then got ousted from the next Scream movie because of some rather ill thought out comments about Israel and Gaza. Oops-a-daisy, big mouth there. And but she plays, Sammy. The Lambert, who's got this team together, he christens them the Rat Pack. No one knows anyone's real name or identity, so he gives them all the names of the people in the genuine Rat Pack. So you've got Melissa Barrera is Joey, Dan Stevens is Frank, Will Catlett, US Marine sniper, is Rickles, Catherine Newton is Sammy, Kevin Durant is Peter, and Angus Cloud is Dean. And so they're their monikers throughout the movie. But we will learn their real names and their real identities. But they don't know each other at all. So everything's gone smoothly. Lambert, who's played by Giancarlo Esposito, brings them into the big Gothic mansion house. Right, look, don't fuck around. Just keep the girl safe, and we'll get the money. And then you lot can all fuck off, Everything sounds great and kosher. Off he goes into the night, seemingly. They've got the girl there. The girl's handcuffed and chained to a bed, got a blindfold on her. They work out that, look, only one of us should go and see her, because she's got no idea how many have took her. She got drugged and knocked out, remember? And so just one goes in, and she can associate with that one. And they elect, I think she elects herself Sammy, which is, Melissa Barrera. And so she goes in masked and all that. But, can you take my blindfold off? It's on too tight. You're not going to hurt me, are you? No, we're not going to hurt you. Just do what you're told, and, you'll be fine. Your dad's going to pay up and all that. We're just going to keep you here for a while. Your dad will pay, and then you can go back home. Everything will be great. Pinky promise? Yeah, pinky promise. And all this kind of stuff goes on. Loosens the handcuffs, takes the blindfold off and all that. Only I'm going to come and see you. Well, that gets blown pretty quickly, because they start working out, well, who's the big daddy that's got all the money that's going to pay these millions for his little girl? Who's that then? Well, Dan Stevens blunders in to the room without his mask on, because he thinks that the girl is still got a blindfold on, which of course she hasn't. And he walks in and she sees his face, but she turns around. He's like, and this is one of my bugbears about this movie, is the amount of F-bombs that are dropped in it. I swear all the fucking time I do. But when it's a movie and someone is writing the script and the dialogue down, do they ever stop and think, that's just too much? Now, if it's Joe Pesci, that's fine. If it's a Goodfellas, Scorsese movie, it's gangsters, yeah, I get it. It's the quick, horrible, street level, jargon. It's fuck this, fuck that, fuck, But in a film like this, it really stands out, and Dan Stevens is going for the record here. The amount of F-bombs he can fit into a movie. And it's really OTT, and it leads me to believe that it is done on purpose. It's to actually aggravate you to a point where, look, he's a likeable guy, but he's a bad bastard as well. And, I just wish he'd stop saying that. But crucially, he does not. And he threatens that this 12-year-old girl puts a fucking automatic to her head. Did you see my fucking face? Did you see my fucking face? Fucking turn around. The fuck are you saying? What colour are my fucking eyes? You didn't see my fucking face. And it just goes on, and he's threatening a little girl. Now, as I say, the marketing campaign gave away the fact that Abigail ain't just a little 12-year-old ballerina. We've seen her doing, in her tutu, ballerina-ing to Swan Lake, Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. What was Swan Lake the theme tune of? Todd Browning's 1931 Dracula with Bela Lugosi. That's the main piece of music that's in Dracula. So there's a heavy-handed hint there as well. And she's in the tutu and all this. And I was going to put a tutu around this guy, but we just settled for the big mouthful of shark-like fangs, as our vampires in this movie have. They're really razor-edged, and there's a lot of them. We're not just talking the the big sort of Christopher Lee jobs. No. This is a full gob of Bruce the Shark-like fangs. Cheers, Joel. I didn't see your face. Anyway, he comes away and he starts threatening Sammy. You have one job. Go and see it, but don't take the fucking blindfold off her. She's only done a little trick on all the other members of the team. It's like, you're a junkie. That's what you are. That's why you wear the long sleeves. This is to Catherine Newton playing Sammy. That's why you wear the long sleeves. To hide all the marks and all that. And you're looking for your next bit of candy, and all this. The driver, you would have fucking head the ball, but you're not a professional whatsoever. You, to Rickles, you're military, you're a sniper, yeah. You to Kevin Durant, you're just big muscle. You think you fucking God's gift. You think you're this, you think you're that, but really, did you get abused as a kid because you were so big? Did you not get any love off your dad? And she hits a nerve there, and then she cottons on to Dan Stevens' character. You're a cop. The way you stand, what were you, undercover or something like that? You're a cop who's gone rogue. But she nails every character. But they also, in turn, they nail her for this magic trick of hers. How she, character assassinates each one, but hits close to the bone. They also get her that she's got a bit of a problem and an issue as well, like a haunted past and all that. So, Dan Stevens comes back in. The fucking girl, you have one job, keep her blindfolded. What, you walked in without your mask on? She better have a blindfold on. She can identify my face, she can ID me. Always gets me this in movies when someone can ID you. For a brief second she saw his face, and then she gives a description to the police, the authorities. Imagine if that was the case. You're not going to find that person. What bullshit is that? Who finds anyone with an identikit picture these days? It doesn't happen. No way. And what's the other big one for this? Oh, there's another one. Cobra. Stallone's Cobra. What's her face? It is Bridget Nielsen IDs the big killer, Brian Thompson, playing him in Cobra. And him and his cult have been axing people to death all over the city, but she IDs him, she can see his face. And so the army of this guy go after Stallone, who's looking after her, and this girl, Bridget Nielsen, with fucking hordes of them who are killing innocent people left, right, centre. It culminates in a huge battle where they even take over a town. Every single person could be seen. They're doing all that because one girl briefly saw your leader's face. When you're all doing this in fucking bright daylight with no masks on. It's just ludicrous. I love the film though, I do, but it's fucking stupid. And the same thing applies here. Who cares if she can fucking see your face? What difference is it going to make? But she does say to him, she gives him clues about her father. In fact, she gives the name of her father. It's like, who is your father? Why is he so important? How come he got so much money? How come he's so powerful? Because she's saying, look, he even says to Sammy, who she's formed an attachment with, because she works out Sammy's got a son, and what's his name? And she goes, I'm not going to give you his name. Well, let's just call him Justin. This is Abigail saying this. Let's just call him Justin then. Okay, you need to look after Justin. Just be there for him. And there's a huge sort of metaphor and narrative framework that this whole thing will hinge upon. Poor kids who've been left alone by parents who just can't be bothered or don't have the time for them or have issues of their own. So they neglect the poor kid. And look what happens. So she's like, look, when all this is finished, go and see your son and all that. Go and see Justin. And by the way, I'm sorry about what's going to happen, you know. And she's like, what's going to happen? So already the seeds of distrust and unease have been sown. But Dan Stevens gets the name of her father, and it's Christophe Lazare. Christophe Lazare, you say? What? Who? No, so he goes out and he tells everyone, look, he starts packing his bags. I'm going. Fuck this. I'm going. My share, my 7 million, divide it amongst yourselves. I'm not interested. I'm like, whoa, hold on a minute. Why? What happened? What did she say to you? Oh, I know her father now. It's Christophe Lazare. And they're all like, hearts are in mouths. No. Invisible nooses come down. We're all doomed. But I think, is it Catherine Newton? Sammy goes, who's Christophe Lazare? Who's Christophe Lazare? He's the biggest crime boss, the most violent, aggressive man the world has ever known. He's the Antichrist. He's evil incarnate. And he starts telling stories. See, I said about The Usual Suspects and Reservoir Dogs, how the seeds of distrust are sent throughout the team. But also, Usual Suspects, you have the mythical mob lord, Kaiser Soze. But one of them could be Kaiser Soze. Who do you trust? Who? So, this Kaiser Soze sort of mythological wannabe. Jesus Christ, I struggled there, didn't I? Christophe Lazare. They all know bits about what he does, and he has a hitman called Valdez, the legendary Valdez, who can seemingly scale skyscrapers and get into high-rise apartments where there are witnesses who have been looked after by 8 federal agents, FBI guys. But when they get in there the next day, everyone's been killed, body parts everywhere, they've been decapitated, there's organs have been removed. Who did that? How did he get in? It was heavily guarded. It's Valdez, that's what he does, it's his hallmark. He dismembers bodies, but he's almost supernatural. So, of course, when the team begin to get picked off one by one, who did he think? It's Valdez. Lazare's got Valdez onto us. He's here, he's got in somehow, and he's going to take us apart. And there's the crux of it. It isn't Valdez. Valdez is actually Abigail. There you go. Abigail's behind the whole bloody thing. I'm not going to go through this scene by scene by scene like I do normally, but I'm going to discuss a fair bit of it and give everything away. But Abigail's behind the whole thing. The whole thing is a big fucking setup. All of this gang have wronged her father, Christophe Lazare, at some point. They've all been involved in either creaming money off his organisation, his empire, or they're behind people getting set up and identified, getting possibly the finger getting put on him. Or in the case of Dan Stevens, he was an undercover cop who got into a gang and liked the lifestyle too much and came too close to this underworld family, but wanted bits for himself, and tried to get out. He's also a family man who turned his back on his own family. But they've all wronged the Lazare Empire at some point. So, to win favour with their father, Lazare, Abigail, with Lambert, has organised this whole setup to bring these bastards in and kill them all and win favour with an old man. Nice plan. But she takes her time doing it. Because as she says to them, once they all realise that she's a vampire, she says to them, why are you dragging this whole thing out? You could kill any one of us any time. But why not? Why you just do it? She's like, I like playing with my food. And the whole rest of the movie, once they realise what's going on, because poor Angus Cloud, Dean, was he Dean? Yeah. They find him decapitated. Poor Sammy finds him, and he's sitting there in a chair, and she goes in, Dean, what? He's already played a few tricks on her. He wants to get into her knickers, and who can blame him? She is very nice. And he's been lurking in the room, which is going to be her bedroom. He's been lurking in the shadows there, jumps out on her, and but he's a fucking annoying character, like, and another massive F-bomb, mega barrage takes place. Get the fuck out of here, you fucking maniac, you motherfucker, just fuck off, and this goes on. And he goes down to the cellar, or the kitchen, I think it is, like, which is down in the bowels of this really retro gothic mansion. And he hears noises, and we do see him get dragged away by something unseen. And but she'll come down there. Dean, is this another one of your tricks? And he's sitting there at the table, and she goes over to him, nudges him, and his head comes off. Yay! Whoa, it's been ripped off at the root. So everyone comes down there, and that's when they realise, shit, Valdez must be here, because this is what he does. He rips bodies apart, he decapitates. It's him, it's all his hallmarks. The finger of suspicion will point at each individual member of the survivors, and they reckon that Dan Stevens is, for a good portion, they think that he is the Valdez. It's all part of a big setup, and he's the killer. They're going to try and prove their innocence and all that, but also try to work together, because they now know, well, when they find out that Abigail is a vampire, because they go up there and she manages to just get out the handcuffs, and suddenly lots of teeth, big attack, and they manage to shut the door on her, run back downstairs, barricade the door. She's a fucking vampire. She's a fucking vampire. What do we know about vampires? How'd you kill a vampire? Stakes. Wooden stakes through the heart. So Dan Stevens says, right, to Kevin Durand, in the games room, those pool cues, sharpen them into fucking stakes, do it now. But what about crucifixes? Yeah, that could work. What about garlic? Sammy, go down the kitchen and go and get some garlic. This is Catherine Newton, and she's Lisa Frankenstein, she was in as well. And she goes off, well, what's garlic look like? You don't know garlic, it's in the kitchen. And she comes back with a big string of onions. And they go, they're onions. Well, they're part of the same family, aren't they? I mean, I've got some garlic here. Here's some garlic. Hey! But garlic doesn't work anyway. And nor do crosses. Because Kevin, in the next assault, the next battle that they have with Abigail, of which there are plenty, she grabs the crucifix from around his neck and sits astride him and just fucking stabs him in the chest. But he's got a big fucking chest. We see him wobbling his pecs at one point early on. He's a bloody mess. The pool cue stake, that goes straight through the thigh of Dan Stevens, right the way through. And you have to pull the fucking thing out and put a tourniquet around him and all that. There is plenty of blood and splatter in this movie. Numerous attacks take place. Paul Rickles, the Marine sniper, he's got set up on what they call the crow's nest. He's up on, I think, the attic room. He's not on the roof, but he's on the attic room. Because early on they think, look, the only threat that's going to come to us is going to be from the outside. So we set up a perimeter and we keep a watch 24, well, we've got 22 hours left now for the deadline. So we're going to make it through the night, that's all we're going to do. You don't actually see him set up a perimeter up at all. You see people walking around corridors and stuff but nothing. They're not particularly military or strategic, apart from Rickles, who gets the crow's nest. Well, he goes up there. He forms an attachment with Sammy as well, because he realises that, not Sammy, Joey, Melissa Barrera, I'm military. He said, but I think you're military as well. And yeah, it turns out that she is military. She was a medic, but she's got a little coke addiction of her own. We'll go into all that. Anyway, he goes up and his rifle's gone. But he said, look, you and me, this is to Joey, we're going to get through this together. I've got family to go back to. You've got family to go back to. We're going to stick together. The two of us, right, lock and load. And within the next 2 minutes, he's dead. He's just standing there. And Joey, Melissa Barrera, is like, Rickles, are you all right there? Rickles? And then it's another finding of a body, which shouldn't be standing, but because his throat's all ripped out and all half of his chest is gone as well, and down he goes. So we've lost 2 already. So they've got to close ranks now. There's many battles with Abigail, And Abigail, the ballerina, we see it in a ballerina's tutu, which is drenched in gore. She has the shark's mouth and all that. She taunts them. She's incredibly articulate, because don't forget, she's not a 12-year-old kid. She's centuries old. And once they know that once the jig is up and like they've got to run and fight for their lives, you have many sort of set pieces of running down corridors and hiding behind doors and exploding through walls and doors and stuff like, and just loads of chaos takes place, and it is great. It's kind of not, once you know the cat's out the bag, it's kind of non-stop stuff, and but you get great dialogue as well. Not the F-bombs all the time, but it's the way that Abigail will taunt these people. And we'll see, she can float, she can fly. She's dragging a body with her at one stage, floating up the stairwell. And she can appear, she can be chasing you down one corridor, and then she'll be in front of you. It's vampire skills, And she's bloody good at them as well. And she's a master manipulator. They do manage to imprison her in this grand Gothic elevator it's one of those huge sort of iron railinged elevators. They manage to lock her in there, and in that scene, they're like, well, we've got you now. Look, if we just leave, can let us out, and we'll leave, and we'll never come back, and don't worry about a thing. We won't say a word. That she's not going to do that, and then she gives all their real identities away. And it turns out that Joey was a medic in the army, but had a bit of a coke problem, and the army got wind of it, mainly because got a bit lax on the battlefield operations and on casualties, and a few people died because of their negligence, and she also turned her back on her son, who is not called Justin, he's called Caleb, which we'll come on to all that. But Abigail knows everything about all of them, and she details how they've wronged her father and her father's empire, and this is why she's doing it. So they all bug out and leave, and they leave Dan Stevens there, and he's trying to plead for his life, and she's like, well, look, if you let me out, I'll show you the way out. It's because everything's shut down. Or I should have said, they can't leave. All these massive steel shutters came down across all the windows. And she tells Dan Stevens, look, in the library, there is a book. You pull that book out. And what's the book? It's Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. Pull that book out and it'll open up a little secret passage. It'll get you out. He said, but you've got to let me out. And he said, well, yeah, I'm that fucking stupid, aren't I? So he reneges on it with her. But we know damn well what her powers are. So as he thinks he's got away with it, the elevator just fucking explodes, and she comes out and she's all over him. And a huge battle takes place. But Joey, who drugged her in the first place, because she knows drugs when she's not off her tits, and it knocks her out. That could have been a ruse. Maybe she was just joking. She'd been playing with us the entire time. No, I felt her pulse. She's a fucking vampire, for God's sake. I felt her pulse and it slowed down. It does knock her out. So in a great big melee, we actually have the hypodermic has gone through some other railings, and Joey's trying to reach for it, and there's battles and fucking carnage taking place, and they manage to put the injection into it eventually, and she does get subdued. But the scenes of people going down corridors and ending up in different parts of the structure at some point, Sammy, Catherine Newton, manages, after another getaway, manages to plunge into a basement pool of an enormous amount of desecrated, mutilated bodies. Think the end of Poltergeist, where all the bodies come out. You moved the headstones, but you left the bodies, didn't you? You left the bodies, didn't you? All these bodies come up in this turgid pool, and she's stuck in there, and it's like, oh my God. Now, I'll be honest, I thought that at some point, all these bodies are going to be reanimated and the whole place will be overrun with vampires. It doesn't happen. And I was a bit disappointed by that. I really thought that that's how it's going to go. That's how it's going to pan out. They'll be everywhere. It'll be a massive siege, albeit a siege from the inside. Doesn't happen, I'm afraid. But she does say about all these bodies, and she gets out of all that. Abigail will put a bite on Sammy, Catherine Newton, and they're like, well, what happens if you get bitten by a vampire? Do I become a vampire? And they're like, well, I don't know. Well, the wound's there. How do you feel? Hold the cross and all that. Well, they know the cross doesn't work. Stakes do work, but we'll get on to that as well. But a bit like From Dusk Till Dawn, Sammy will turn and she'll be under the power and the thrall of Abigail. And it's a really good scene as well. Like, they realise that hours have gone by and sunlight's coming through, and they manage to open the curtain, and in a mid-attack with Abigail, her arm gets caught in the sunlight and it melts away, and she shrinks back screaming and all that. So sunlight definitely works, and they manage to get away from it. But they also say, like, well, just before we shut the door, I could see the bone was growing back. They can regenerate, obviously. So you've got Sammy thinking, am I a vampire? Well, step into the light. We're safe in the light. Hey. And so step into the light, and she's like, oh, I'm all right. I'm okay. And then they will split up later on, and you'll get like Kevin Durand, who's been multiple crucifix stabbed in the chest, and he's an idiot as well. And he's with Sammy, and they're going down this corridor, and suddenly, behind his back, Sammy will succumb to her vampirism because she looks and the bite mark has gone. It's healed up, and she's looking even more radiant. And but we can see somewhere else Abigail is doing her pirouettes and all her whatever her stuff, you know, they're up on the top toes and all that kind of stuff. And suddenly Sammy starts doing the same thing. Think the remake of Suspiria, where dance is used as some kind of spell, some kind of possession. And so she starts dancing and all this crazy, sort of almost an Evil Dead style as well. And yeah, she'll put the bite on poor Kevin Durand and basically rip him apart, like. But she's there, and she looks amazing as a vampire as well, with the fangs and her blonde hair and her fishnet tights on as well. Like, oh dear, very nice indeed. Dan Stevens and Melissa Barrera come down behind her, and she's just sitting there. We can see her face, and she's all bloody and all that, like. But she's like, she's made up herself because she's vampire now. And like, what happened? She's got him. Yeah, Peter. I think Karen Durand's name is Peter. He's dead. I'm like, kind of like, well, okay, let's move on then. But Joey, Melissa Barrera, is like, what's wrong? Stand up and come to us. Anyway, the gig's up. Like, she turns around. I'm like, ah. So they manage to get a big fight with her, but they do plunge a stake into her, and not just like blood spurting everywhere, and then a serene look of normal life afterwards. No. You put a stake through the heart of these vampires, they explode in a welter of horrible grungy goo and gristle and just thick gobbets of really blackiness, and it coats everybody. But man, do they go up. Not sure that was ever in vampire mythology. A stake through the heart makes them explode, but it does make for some graphic gru. And yeah, so now you've got Dan Stevens, Melissa, and Abigail. I think that's it. Except, well, you've already had a scene where she says to him, Abigail says to Dan Stevens, that look, you know, the book and then there were none. And earlier on, he's gone in there and he's fucking hell, pulls out all the books. She fucking lied to me, because no trap door opened, no secret passageway opened up, nothing. But when the two of them are sort of like regrouping after this latest skirmish, one panel just completely swings open, and they're like, what the hell? Or what the fuck, you know? I'm not fucking going down there. Well, we got nothing to fucking lose, have we? Well, fuck you. You go fucking first. No, you go fucking... It's just F. But they do go down this passageway. And they get welcomed by Lambert, the guy that supposedly put the team together and employed them. He's there. He's been there all the time. He never left. And he's in like a control room where he commands all the shutters and the security stuff and all this. And he opens all the passageways and what have you. But Lambert is also a vampire. And he explains to Dan Stevens, look, yeah, she put the bite on me a while ago. Look, she's gone renegade. Doesn't see eye to eye with her father. So I worked out, this is Lambert saying all this with a big mouthful of fangs. I can work with you guys, and together we could take down Christophe Lazar, her dad, and we could take over the Empire. Yeah, because I've got the powers of a vampire now. And he's got Joey, Melissa Barrera, against the wall like that by her throat. Doesn't want her. Oh no, doesn't want her. But why he doesn't kill her straight away, I don't know. But he does not. And he said, I've got everyone where I want you now. This is exactly what I wanted. To Dan Stevens, you and me are going to do this, take over the Empire, right? But first of all, and I think he knocks it out or something like that. And he puts the bite on Dan Stevens. And like, oh, and it really, Sam Raimi would be proud of this. A pure Evil Dead, blood vomit. It goes on for ages. Obviously, he puts the bite on Dan Stevens and puts the vampire, venom into him. So he becomes a vampire, but he's got to jettison all the old blood first. It goes on for ages, just fucking everywhere, like it's just hose piping everywhere. And then he comes to and he's like, oh, this is great. I like this. Yeah. And right, well, there's your first meal. Actually, he says, there's your first victim, meaning Melissa, Joey. And I think the line would be better at there's your first meal. That would have been better. But anyway, there's your first victim. But Abigail comes in, and you get another... Abigail knew about all this and has set the whole thing up again. She set Lambert up, and she set everybody up. And Abigail knows everything. Almost everything. I think she kills Lambert, but Dan Stevens suddenly gets a lot more powers than he's just come back as a vampire in the last 30 seconds, and suddenly he's throwing the chief vampire Abigail around, swinging around, throwing about and doing stuff, putting bites. He manages to impale Joey. Is it a pool cue? I'm not sure what it is now. He gets her through there and pins her to the wall, and she's trying to drag herself off this thing as he's killing Abigail. That's supposedly killing Abigail. You can't do that. And then I think he pulls her off the damn thing in the end, and a massive battle takes place all over the bloody gothic structure. Blood's going everywhere. They're flying up staircases. They're getting thrown over balconies. Massive body contorting stuff. You see Abigail as almost like Regan in the spider walk. She's bent over backwards and then manages to... It's a ballerina. She's very dexterous and athletic and acrobatic. And she manages to twizzy her body back round again. Having had her neck broken, just comes back again. Great big fight. They manage to kill Dan Stevens. Again, a welter of gore and... explosion, fucking hell. Oh, it takes the two of them to put the stake through his heart, and it just big eruption, and they're completely coated in this stuff. And you're gonna kill me now, so whatever. No. You need to go back and see your son. His name's not Justin, by the way. It's Caleb. And Abigail just goes, I know. She knows everything. Why did you do all this? I was getting revenge for my father, to try and win favour with my father again. He's always too busy for me, he neglects me and all this. Like, so you understand her point of view now, but you know, I'm going to let you go. Don't worry about it. You know, we work well together. Pinky promise and all that. Like, so as Joey is about to leave, the door opens, and in walks Daddy. Daddy's home. Christophe Lazare. Dracula is what he is. It doesn't get mentioned, and like, but Joey's like, oh my god, and he's got a face full of fangs, and he's played by Matthew Good. Now, Matthew Good was also in Downton Abbey, not the same time as Dan Stevens, but they're both in Downton Abbey. And Matthew Good's he looks like the actor Edward Fox, old school actor, but he's a dead ringer for Edward Fox, with that sunken in face, you know, those sort of grave eyes. He looks very old school, but anyway, in walks Daddy. Natty suit, but big fangy fangs, and yeah, he ain't happy, you know. And but like, Abigail's like, Dad, you know, don't hurt her. She helped me, and I've done all this for you. I've done all this for you, and like she's going like, this is Joey, like, Lazare. He goes, I'm known by many different names, because he's fucking Dracula. That's exactly who he is, and he is gonna kill Joey, but Abigail pleads to let it go. And in the end, and she's drenched in gore, he takes her hand and he kisses her hand, but he's also like, because he's just covered in gore, you know, like, her fangs are getting longer and all that. And she walks out, Joey, and gets into the car, and she has one of her special lollipops, which we all know is exactly, it ain't a kid's lollipop, put it that way. And off she drives into the night, having survived. And she has made a phone call to her son as well, saying how much she loves him and how sorry she is that she's missed seeing him and not been around. But, you know, just, I love you so much. And Abigail's heard all this. I think Abigail's stalking her at the time, like. So this whole bond between Abigail and Joey is... It's corny, it's contrived, it's obvious, it's highly telegraphed, but it's not a bad thing, and I was quite happy with that. So Joey gets away with it, and father and daughter are reunited. Now, okay, that's the plot rundown and the ending given away there. I had a blast with this movie. It works so well. It is funny. It's laugh out loud funny. The likes of Sammy, Catherine Newton, is outstanding. She's really, really good in it. Ditzy, but so cute. Dan Stevens, bespectacled Dan Stevens. He's not the muscle-bound fucking action guy that he was in The Guest. But, you know, he's a badass as well, and you can't trust him. But he's also a gullible fool, and despite the numerous F-bombs, he's quite witty as well, and some of his sarcastic barbs are pretty decent. Kevin Durand is great. I've always liked him in movies, and he's the big muscle-bound idiot. He reminded me of the guy in Everyone Loves Raymond, Raymond's brother. Raymond's only a little arse, Ray Romano, but his brother, played by a guy whose name I've forgotten now, who's a copper, is about 8 feet tall. And he's the firstborn, but he's neglected by his mum and dad, and it's a chip on his shoulder. Kevin Durand reminds me of him, especially in this, because he's got a familial chip on his shoulder as well. But he's got the same sort of, you know, statuesque build. At one point, Angus Cloud as, what's his name? Dean, of course. Like, Kevin Durand's asleep in this big armchair, and he gets a pen. He's not going to wake up. Gets a pen and draws a big cock, a penis on the side of his face with the drippy penis, yeah, on the side of his face. And like when he comes to the rescue at a later point, Sammy's going like, "Why have you got a dick on your face?" Like, it's like, fucking hell. I like that kind of shit. It's anarchic, bizarre stuff. But the film is a black comedy. It is. The trailer made you realise that with some of the one-liners, and you knew it going in. It was going to be a wisecracking sort of banter-filled movie, and not take itself too seriously. Got its fang well and truly wedged in its cheek. But I laughed out loud at many moments in it. The gore is, I know some people are going, oh, it's super, super gory. It is gory. Angus Cloud, the head coming off, could have been a lot gorier, to be honest. The death of Rickles, the Marine sniper, even though his throat's gone and there's blood caved in chest, it isn't that gory. The crucifix to the chest and all that kind of stuff. The pool cue through the thigh. There is some gore. When Sammy does kill Kevin Durand, she really puts the bite on his throat, and there's a lot of going on there. But again, it's nothing, really OTT spectacular. It's nothing you haven't seen before. But it's the style in which it's done. Now, you've got two directors on this movie. You've got Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette. And these are the guys who are behind Ready or Not from a few years ago, which is very similar in style to this movie, because it's a new bride gets brought in to meet the family in their big gothic mansion, but they have a certain ritual they've got to go through, and that poor new bride will have to fight for her life with all sorts of weaponry and all over this gothic mansion. And this is another film where you have people trapped in a labyrinth, a gothic labyrinth, full of rooms and corridors and dungeons and things and makeshift weaponry and all sorts of stuff to fight off for a protracted length of time. So it's very similar sort of theme, and this time it's vampires. And they keep, the pace is pretty damn good. I've seen people say that the first half of the movie, which is all set up before they actually know that she's a vampire, is slow. It isn't. It's anything but slow. The dialogue's witty. The characters are amusing enough to keep you buoyed along. You know she's a vampire. So you're watching Abigail playing them off one another and enjoying herself doing it. Abigail herself. Oh my God. Alicia Weir is absolutely outstanding. Whether she's playing the supposedly innocent 12-year-old girl, and she's believable as that, or when she's a centuries old, still in the same body, just with a lot of fangs and a demonic look in her eyes, with really no makeup, apart from the fangs, just with the hair down. Think J-horror. She is unnerving and yet so funny and charismatic at the same time. Works a treat. She's outstanding. When she's on screen, she owns it. She is brilliant. And even though I said before about Dan Stevens putting a gun to a 12-year-old girl's head and F-bombing all the time, and being really aggressive and nasty, you're like, well, that's going to be unsettling. That's quite distressing to witness. It isn't, because you know what she is. There's many times where there's someone behind her and her face is in the camera, and you can see that she's not in there. She's not worried at all. They can't harm her. They can't. She just regenerates, And when they've got the big smackdown at the end, which I'll admit goes on a bit too long. Even though it's action, but the fight between Joey, Abigail and Dan Stevens it just goes on, and it really should be trimmed, that. So, but even during that, she says to him, because he's like, I've got all these powers now, look at me, I'm super big and powerful, blah 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 blah, and she's like, yeah. She says something like, but you haven't been a vampire long enough to learn all the cool things. It's either cool things or cruel things. I can't remember which she said. But either way, she's got more skills than him. He's been a vampire for the last 5 minutes, basically. That's it. She's been a vampire for centuries. She knows all the tricks, and there's no way he's going to beat her. And of course he doesn't. He explodes. But Cheers, y'all. The effects are good. I wasn't taken out by any horrible CG. The prosthetics, the practical effects, all look really, really good. I've seen no one go on about that actually, but the fangs, it's a bit like Fright Night, but the mouths don't get really big, but they are massively ringed with these immense sharp fangs. And as I say, Abigail looks amazing. Sammy as a vampire looks amazing because she's got this manic sort of look in her eyes, and the hair's all gone crazy, and she's got like this sort of, sort of pale face anyway, and the sexy sort of goth chick gear on. She looks unbelievably good. Even it meant, get my throat ripped out just for a tussle with her in that guise, yeah, I'd sacrifice a vein or two. I'm not saying where those veins might be, but anyway. But the pacing, I think, is great. The first half of it, the unraveling of the characters, the guessing game, it's a parlour room stuff. It is Agatha Christie kind of in reverse, because you've got like, it's Poirot or Miss Marple doing the investigative stuff, trying to pin down the characters and work them out. That's in the first 20 minutes where Joey does this thing, and then of course you'll get the unraveling, the unveiling of who the characters really are, which is great. So you've got two Agatha Christie things there. You've got the little reference to Agatha Christie, and then there were none with the book, which is nicely done. Let's get on to the other references. Now, Christophe Lazar, I thought, is that a play on any of the Dracula names that he's had? Count Alucard with Lon Chaney Jr. No, it is not. And it isn't, but there are other names which are meant to be references. When Abigail gives the real names of these characters, and she says who Joey really is, her name is, God, I'm going to get this wrong now, Ana Lucia Cruz. Ana Lucia Cruz. Now, Melissa Barrera is Mexican, and Ana Lucia Cruz is a Mexican, or certainly Spanish name. Now, Melissa Barrera and the directors agreed on this. Her real name will be this. Why? This is naff, I'll be honest. This is naff and very tenuous, to say the least. Ana Lucia, it's meant to be Lucy, as in Lucy Westenra from Dracula. Tenuous, methinks. And Cruz is it's Spanish for cross. So the irony there, it's Lucia as in Lucy Westenra, Cruz as in the cross. Just a little joke for them. Well, yeah, I'm afraid that goes absolutely fucking nowhere. That does not work as a reference. There are clues in the movie as to exactly whose house this is. I mean, there's a great big, is it a painting or a statue? Do you know, I can't remember right now. In the big hall with a lovely ornate marble floor, you go up like a grand staircase there, and right up there before the staircase goes off in different directions, Hogwarts style, you've got like it's either a poster, it's either a painting or a statue of some tall, imposing figure with a small child, well, a 12-year-old child, a daughter beside them, got a really silly hat on. And at first I thought, well, clearly that's Abigail and her dad. But why is her dad wearing such a fucking stupid costume? Why has he got this big stupid, almost like a Cardinals hat on? Just couldn't work it out. But the thing is, it clearly is. And they do look at it for a second. It's Abigail. Abigail is there with her dad. Ta-da! You know, this is why we took her from her own supposed mansion house to this fucking gothic edifice. And there's a picture of, or statue of her already here. They do look at it, but they don't make the connections. But it seemed that obvious to me. But then again, we know going in that she's Dracula's daughter. Now, when he comes in, Matthew Good, it's not the best rendition of the big master vampire, you know, or Dracula, let's call him that, for 'tis who he is. He's not the best, but he ain't the worst either. And it is, you kind of know he's going to make a comeback there, almost like the werewolf reunion from the old TV show, which I have talked about in the past. The BBC, I think it was BBC serial called Supernatural, and it was a different story each time. But the werewolf reunion was a phenomenal event in my young years. It really made an effect on me. But when this guy comes back, you just know, if you mention some patriarch or even a matriarch, they're going to make an appearance at some point at the end of the movie, obviously, to try to reclaim their throne or do whatever. So there's no big surprises there. Pretty much everything is telegraphed in advance. There is no shocks or surprises in this narrative or script at all, none. If you're into the genre, you see everything coming. It's massively telegraphed, hugely foreshadowed, but not a bad thing. If you're having a bunch of fun whilst watching it, what's the issue? It worked for me. I knew everything was going to happen. I knew who would live, who'd die, who'd turn, who wouldn't. You can see all this. Oh, I have missed something out. Of course I have. Joey does get turned as well, because Dan Stevens does this horrible thing, which again it's in character, but it's for him. But it's not. It's really a bit conceited, I suppose, and goes a little bit further than necessary. He puts the bite on her to turn into a vampire, so he can then control it, because once you've put the bite on someone and they're the master vampire over you, you can control them, as Abigail did with Sammy. Sammy wasn't a full vampire, but what's his face, Lambert, did the full vampirism thing on Dan Stevens. All that exiting of all his own blood, and then he has a bite or drinks the blood of Lambert, so he becomes a full vampire. Hence, he's getting the powers. I should have said that before, but anyway, I'm saying it now. And then he puts the bite on Joey, but doesn't give any of his blood to her. But the idea is, it's look, I'm going to let you live as a vampire, but you know what you're going to do? I'm going to make you go and visit your son, and you're going to kill him. You know, and it's unnecessarily cruel. And what's the point? What is the point? But there you go. And but mind you, he does say to her earlier on, look, don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with me, because I'll get you back. And she does, in this sort of trick of working out who's who and what they really did, their backgrounds. So he's like, don't fuck with me. And of course, she didn't tell him about Abigail taking the blindfold off. So he does feel, I've worked it out now. He does feel aggrieved by her. So yeah, he's getting revenge on her. I've only seen it once, folks. I've probably missed loads of things out as well, but it did seem cruel. But of course, during that fight, before Daddy-O comes home, she says to Abigail, look, you know, am I all right? Yeah, you're going to be fine now. He was in charge. Now we've killed him. Boom. Now we've killed him. He's got no power over you. So you're going to be fine. You're back to normal. Don't worry about it. I think that's the case anyway. But they do play around with the vampire mythos and folklore completely for their own ends. But hey, look, it's allowed. They're not creating love stories with, you know, literary giants like the Dracula, like Luc Besson's attempting to do. They're not messing around with that kind of thing. They're just Bram Stoker invented so much about the vampire mythology, which is not in the folklore, the legends of ancient yore. He added so much to it that you can do whatever you want, really, you know, with the vampire mythology. And this film certainly skirts around things and adds its own little flavour. And I think it works. As I say, the look of the vampires is great. I wish all the bodies in the cesspit basement pool had risen up. Because that would have really... The ending is a great big fight, a free-for-all. But it goes on too long. It would have been worth it if he brought these shambling ghouls in as well, and that would add a lot more to it. But you know, hey, that's my own version. Dan Stevens is good. Melissa Barrera it is good in a very sort of thankless role, really, because you know exactly where she's going with this, and there's no real narrative change for her, but she's still good. And I went on about Catherine Newton being really, really sexy as hell, but Melissa Barrera is awesomely gorgeous as well. So there, in more of a darker gothic look about it, but yeah, very nice indeed. The score by Brian Tyler. You've been listening to it while I've been yattering on and playing it right now. Is generic and forgettable, sadly. I expected a lot more of Brian Tyler. I like his stuff. Done a lot of action movies, but done a lot for Stallone, the Expendables movies, and Rambo. Rambo, the one set in Burma. And I like his stuff. I like his music. It's very aggressive. It's very adrenalized. And in this, it was so. I didn't notice it at all whilst the film was playing. I didn't notice anything other than Swan Lake, of which there are a couple of variants, because the film starts off with Abigail on stage training to an empty theatre, doing all their pirouettes and turns and stuff like, and all that kind of stuff, to Tchaikovsky's I'm going to say Black Swan then, Swan Lake. That was another, you know, sort of dark gothic dancing opera, you know, macabre classic. And you see her dancing to that, and then back at home or in the mansion, she's got an old gramophone player, and she'll put a scratchy record vinyl of Swan Lake on, and and she dances to that, and she will possess Sammy, and Sammy will be doing all this. Now this is Brian Tyler's variant, his take on it. This is called the Swamp Edit. And it's eerie, and it's if you know your Dracula and your Universal horrors, then you're kind of like, oh yes, that's brilliant. But the rest of his score is very bland and very generic. And I've listened to this score for the last 2 days, and it's doing nothing for me. And you shouldn't. You know how much I love my movie scores. I do videos on them specifically. I do like this version though. It's twisted and angsty. It's sick, you know. But I love my scores, and I wanted to love this, and you shouldn't have to try to love a score to extract it from the movie. I've got the official version, but you know, and then listen to it separately, divorced from the visuals. And like time and time, I have earphones. I was in the pub yesterday and I was playing it, and I was miserable as hell because it wasn't doing a damn thing for me. And yet I was forcing myself to go through it time and time again, whiskey after whiskey after whiskey, and it won't get any better. And I'm a bit stunned by that. Brian Tyler did Children of Dune many years ago, and there's stuff in that which I think is absolutely amazing. I do think he's a great composer. I think he's been kind of sidelined and shunted a little bit, which has kind of maybe narrowed his ambitions or the style that he might want to adopt. But this, I thought, this would be a great one for you. It's a gothic horror score, and it's rote. It's just literally by the numbers. The shocks and the tension, and it's all very generically bland, is what I'm saying. But anyway, it isn't disastrous, but it's not very exciting either. So Abigail, yeah, I've gone on for an hour and almost 10 minutes now, and I've still got some of this left. I had a really good time with it. I did. it's got its flaws. It's got many faults, but it's a fun time. It's a blast, and it's buoyed by literally several fantastic performances, headed up, of course, by Alicia Weir as Abigail, who I cannot say enough. She is so damn good. And the weird thing is, now my mate Tam will probably enjoy this, but what I'm about to say, he's got two daughters who, well, they no longer identify as daughters, let's just be honest about that. And one of them, who was called Mina, now identifies with the name Moon. But when she was a lot younger, she looked vampiric. Her hair was always a cascade of this dark raven hair, piercing dark eyes. And I said to Tam, she's going to be in movies and she'd be playing a vampire. Well, it's almost like she has been born as Abigail in this movie, because Abigail has that look, that exact same look, and she's demonically convincing and supremely confident. That is an incredible actress. That wee young actress there, who probably can't see this movie because she's underage. I'll bet she fucking has. If you're gonna have people put, replica guns to her head, blank fires, and I swear to her face and all that, and then put the fangs in and she's ripping people to shreds, yeah, she can watch this bloody movie. And I hope she does, because she's truly wonderful. But I was watching it and I was thinking, oh my god, that's Mina Moon. That's Tam's daughter there on screen. That's exactly what I foretold years ago. She's done it, only it isn't her. Another weird thing is this: the guy that plays Rickles, he's the black US Marine sniper. Keep doing that. Every time I say sniper, I do this. Played by a guy called Will Catlett. I looked him up and I didn't know any of his other stuff. And I couldn't find an age for him. And I was looking for that specifically because I thought, he has a very distinctive look, this guy. And he looks just like a guy that's in Die Hard 2, Die Harder. One of the mercenary ex-US Army, badass team terrorists at Dulles Airport. They take down Dulles Airport to bring a Nicaraguan crime lord in, Franco Nero, and but they forget about Bruce Willis is there. Oh no, we don't do a terrorist action while a guy in a vest is around. Jesus Christ. Well, one of the team, a black dude, I forget his name in the show, and I don't know the actor's name either, but he's an absolute dead ringer for this guy. He is a guy that he fucks up initially, and William Sanderson, is it William Sanders? Oh, who plays the big boss of the bad boys. He puts a gun to this guy's head, and he's like that. That guy is an absolute dead ringer for the guy that plays Rickles in this. The absolute dead ringer for his name, Will Catlett. And I thought, that's him from Die Hard. He's in Die Hard a few times, but he's memorable. I thought, that's him. So I was Googling, is it the same guy? Will Catlett wasn't in Die Hard 2. Well, who was the guy in Die Hard 2? Well, they're not father and son either. I did look at that, I thought, because they're so identical, but it worked. To my mind, whilst watching it, I was thinking, that fucking guy, he's a vampire. He's not in the movie, but it's almost like, this guy's eternal. He hasn't aged in, 30 odd years? Since Die Hard. Wow, that's incredible stuff. Not him. But it does add to it for me. And right, folks, I think I've gone everywhere I possibly can do with this. Film is great. I mean, I'm assuming you've seen the film, otherwise you wouldn't watch a full spoiler review for it, would you? But yeah, I liked it. Oh, I should say that the house itself is terrific. I live in a mansion here. We have multiple corridors, rooms, halls, multiple floors, and we go back and back and back forever. And we're back onto a cemetery. We have 2 libraries and we have attics and loft. It's a big, big place. But it's nothing compared to this place. Oh my god, this gothic structure. And that's the other thing, you'd be thinking straight away, you're this team recruited. Right, we've just left their place and we go into this place here right now. Kidnapped victims don't tend to, be staying in luxurious abodes. This is like a castle. This is almost like a Californian take on a castle. From the exterior, which I thought was quite odd. When Joey walks out at the end and goes to the Land Cruiser, the 4x4, to get out of there, street lights are on. The lanterns outside the main entrance are on, and she walks out, and it looked like a house in North London. I thought, how can that be? What's happened there? But from different angles, the house is much, much bigger, obviously, with all turrets and battlements and things. And obviously the interior is fucking huge and vast and labyrinthine. A great big hallway, a grand entrance hallway, marble floors and all that. You've got libraries, you've got the big kitchen area, you've got that big dungeon area, but multiple corridors and bedrooms and stuff like. And I thought it was great. And the clever thing was, geographically, as the audience, you don't get a handle on exactly where they are each time, because it plays on that, I think, which is a clever little trick to do, because you're forever sort of disorientated by it, running down this corridor and this staircase, and Abigail is floating about and messing around with you, and it loses you inside its maze-like interior, which is wonderful. So there you go. It's a nice little bit. It's me slagging off the skull, and that's actually quite nice. But if you haven't seen it, do go see it. This is one that I'm going to get. Hopefully it'll be on physical media. Get a 4K of this. Will look and sound great. So I definitely I will get hold of this. The likes of The Last Voyage of the Demeter, no, it's not going to be in my collection. Renfield is not in my collection. There was a time, even up until like sort of the last sort of 6, maybe 8 years ago, that I'd get everything. I'd buy everything to fill, I only liked this. It wasn't brilliant, but I thought it was okay. But I felt the desire to have that movie in my collection, because it wouldn't be complete without it. Be it action movie, be it thriller, be it war movie, but especially horror, sci-fi. I'd have to have them. Now I don't care. I will revisit this. I do want to have it. I like it enough to have it and own it and say, like, I've got Abigail. There it is. Look at that. I got it. Brilliant. 4K. Ooh, kick ass. I say Dan Stevens is going to be in an exorcism movie coming out soon, and I think it's called Exorcism or something like that. And it's based on a true story. They always say this, don't they? But apparently it's the most documented case of an exorcism of a young woman who was possessed, and 2 priests. There's always 2 priests in it. I suppose you've got to have one backup, haven't you? And one to make sure that you didn't go too far. So they're both reporting on each other for Vatican tax purposes, obviously. And he plays one who's got a crisis of conscience, and the other guy has got previous demons, but their battle with this possession case is legendary, and so there you go. So he's not dipping out of the genre, he's staying in it. Good for you, Dan. Good for you. I'm glad you weren't Snake Plissken. There's only one Snake Plissken. Only one. Kurt Russell. Wyatt? Kurt's son? No. You could have a Snake Plissken movie where Kurt Russell is the old Snake Plissken, and he has a son who loses an eye, and passes the mantle on. Don't give a fuck about your war or anyone's president. Just fucking kick ass, And always put a spiked baseball bat right there, right in the back of the noggin, right there. Do it there, you know. No, Wyatt, you're not Snake Plissken either. There's only one. It's Kurt Russell, and he can do one more. Dan Stevens, I think you're great as an actor, and you really he blew me away with The Guest. I thought he was phenomenal in that. He was kind of like, he was the most likable, the guy you want in your life, who can take care of all your problems, kick ass, make you money, and really, like, he's boss. But no, he's a fucking sociopath. In fact, he's a psychopath. And he's almost like Michael Myers, so the guy can't be fucking killed either. But he is a one-man army, but he's a rogue bastard. But he was marvellous in it. Cheers, Dan. Loving your work, sir. And he can do an American accent really well. So Abigail is well worth your time and effort. Do it. Do it now! And it is doing well. It's got. I thought it would have quite a large audience as well. Well, large for a daytime show, but it was more than I expected, to be honest. And everyone seemed to be having a great time with it. They laughed at all the moments I laughed at. For once, I didn't feel like I was the only one that was engaged in it. You know, most times in action films, I'm a right fucking swine because I'm up and I'm fucking punching and I'm shooting and I'm driving and I can't even drive. And I'm fucking rolling around and like, people are going, will you fucking calm down? I am a swine to be with. But sometimes I sit there and I'm just like that. It doesn't mean I'm not enjoying it. I'm just absorbing the movie. If you watch like 2001: A Space Odyssey on the big screen, wow. Well, you're not rolling around, are you? Unless you're one of the monkeys at the beginning with your fucking big bone and smashing things up. You know, you kind of just, you're in the zone. You're just absorbed by the visuals and the intoxicating ideas and, you know, cosmology that's taking place and religiosity / cosmology, because that's the beauty of that movie. And so I can sit still, but a film like this, I was like, oh yeah, and like the one-liners, I was laughing my head off, and like, but I wasn't the only one. So it's a crowd pleaser. That's what I'm saying. So see it with a crowd if you can, and just have a whale of a time. It's no great shakes. It's nothing massively original. It's not going to rewrite the vampire mythology, but it's a fun blast of vampiric, you know, excess. It is Reservoir Dogs, Usual Suspects, The Departed, perhaps. Overrated. Fucking overrated. No Oscars deserved for that movie at all. The original, fucking boss. That was just a crowd pleaser and a, you know, sort of backslapping and you know, in the back pocket of big movie moguls and the Academy. Just didn't need it. No Oscar. It wasn't an Oscar-worthy movie at all. But it's that kind of style again. Anyway, I've waffled way too long. This is not what I meant to do. I was meant to just wrap this up in half an hour. That's what I thought. But there you go. Like the movie itself, I've overrun. Folks, I have been always Shabby Kilt-Man. Please, in the meantime, in this ever vampiric new spin in between time, please keep it kilted, keep it Celtic, and I'm going to see you all raiders. And as I said at the beginning, kids are fucking monsters. They are, but fucking no. Kids are great. They're the future. And in Abigail's case, she's also several millennia of the past as well.